Hi, this is Linda Russell, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I just want to speak a moment on showing up. I show up by attending celebrations of life, activities around campus, and conversations that impact our community. One activity that is especially important to me is when a call is put out to witness. MDUUC has responded to many acts of witness on behalf of marriage equality, immigration rights, Black Lives Matter, on behalf of harm occurring in our detention centers. The witness in front of our church when the folks from Westboro showed up a couple of years ago still remains a very powerful image in my mind. Most recent, many of our community members took classes to learn how to prepare food safely during COVID for the Thanksgiving holiday. And then volunteers came to deliver meals across the county. That is truly showing up.
My name's Dee Simmons, and I'm proud that our church community walks its talk by standing up for justice and equality and climate change. I'm grateful for our church ministers and our staff who work hard and always show up for us. Their efforts make it possible for members of our congregation to stay connected with each other and to attend meetings.
This is Mary Hellenbinger, and I've been most grateful for the people who have shown up to continue doing community circles, whether that's as participants or as co-facilitators. It was more difficult doing it on Zoom and community circles in person as we move forward. And I'm full of gratitude for this wonderful community that is teaching me about what it means to be part of a community.
Hi, this is Elsie Mills. I'm so proud of MDUC when we show up to help others. I'm excited about helping with winter nights in April and meeting new families who are struggling with housing. I'm also delighted when we advocate for those who can't speak up for themselves. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm with MDUC.
Hi, it's Judy Young responding to the thing of showing up. And one of the benefits of the using Zoom these days is that I can show up to book club or my church women's group or even committee meetings from a road trip or the Caribbean cruise and participate active and be there. But another way we've showed up for each other during health challenges to either drive or be with or feed or loan equipment. We show up for each other when we're needed.
Hi, this is Michelle Paquette, she, her pronouns. I just wanted to mention that about folks that's showing up for me and our community. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to participate remotely in the discussions and community groups. It helps me feel connected to the outside world when I'm feeling isolated and alone. I also appreciate how our community continues to reach out and work with others, such as my friends at the Rainbow Community Center.
As someone who lives in a rural area on the other side of the country, it has been really meaningful to me to be part of a community facilitated by online worship and hybrid programming the last few years.
Good morning. Personally, I managed to make it over the bridge from Vallejo on Sunday mornings, particularly when I have the opportunity to play my violin with these wonderful, extraordinarily gifted jazz musicians, beautiful backup singers, under the direction of our terrific Mark Tuning, and to see my beautiful family out there in the congregation.
Hello, this is Andrea Quigley. I have lost count of the number of people from MDUUC who have been there to help me through difficult situations and also rejoiced with me during joyous times. I never imagined I would have such caring people in my life today. Thank you so much.
This is Rowan Mcgregor, and in the past few years, I'm not sure whether I have shown up for other people, but your staff at MDUUC has shown up for me whenever I needed them. I love the Zoom option for keeping in touch with both individuals and groups. I could keep up with friends, and I even made a few new friends.
This is Jim Lincoln, long-term member of MDUUC. So in thinking about how MDUUCers show up for others, I guess what comes to mind, first of all, I mean, there are more ways than one can easily list, is the various protests and demonstrations.
Hello, this is Sierra Lynn. I'm down with back and sciatica pain, and at the same time, Bill is recovering from shoulder replacement surgery. Thanks to Leslie and Michael for reaching out to us to see what we need. And big thanks to the choir. We're both very grateful for the care and support we've received. It means so much to be part of this caring community and to know there is help there.
I have been completely awed and very grateful for all the ways the church has shown up to keep people connected. Thank you to all who are responsible.
So I felt like during the pandemic, it was really, really hard to connect with community, and I love that MDUC was a place where I always knew that I could find a group of like-minded individuals, even when it was really hard to meet with people in person or find opportunities to talk about the things that mattered to me outside of my home.
And I'm going to invite you to exercise your clapping muscles one more time, because what we really need to do is thank this community. So for those of us here together, we're going to represent everybody today. It's a fun week when you ask people to give you a little bit about how people have shown up and how you've shown up for the community, and you get those voicemails every day on your just don't be surprised if I ask you that every week from now on. So those voicemails were awfully wonderful. So I am going to begin with a riddle. Why is a Sunday message a little bit like the tip of an iceberg? Well, because preparation for what you might hear us say for like 10 minutes is actually something that usually takes me about 10 hours, right? It begins with planning with our amazing team, and that's the fun part. And then we start doing our inner work, whoever of us is going to lead a reflection on this any given week. If it's me, I might read or I might listen now often to a book on tape, or I might do extensive searches on the internet, podcasts, websites, all kinds of things. I might talk to people. I might look in our history archives, which I find myself doing. And often I spend some time in discernment. For some sermons, such as the one last week, that might actually involve prayer, that act of looking for truth outside of my own limited knowing. This service involved putting together the video that we just saw. That's why it was a little amateurish. It was mostly me. It was hours and hours and hours of listening to those words and trying to put them into some form we could use today, reflecting on what they mean, and then going through many, many reams of photographs, which I would like to say on my week away at the end of this month, I might spend some time organizing, because boy, are they a mess. But along that journey, just seeing those images, I was really able to engage deeply with all this community does, all that it is, and what we make happen here. The root of the word covenant is just tied to the root venue, which means to come, to show up. And that's what I started thinking about a couple weeks ago as I started to prepare for this particular service. In the last couple weeks, as I culled pictures and cursed technology, that showing up is really truly the hallmark of this particular congregation. We are the congregation that shows up, not only at witnesses, but also at services for one another in times of need in so many ways. We are, in that sense, a very covenantal people already. And that video, that 10 minutes, is just like any Sunday service. It's just a small snapshot of the life of a community. So many could have offered words, and so many have along, especially these last 2 years. There are countless small acts that members and friends do for one another. The people who offer rides, the quiet heads up I get when someone learns that someone has a need, the donations of creativity and artistry that we receive. We talk about time, treasure, and talent a lot here. It is abundant. The member of the personnel committee who takes a course in a certain kind of employment law so that we can know the answer to a question. A course. The people who give of their accounting expertise year after year quietly. Event management in so many areas that we couldn't make work without it. The growth that happens when people come together to learn, to share their vulnerabilities, or to teach other people about something that they love and to share their passions. And the generations of youth who are out in the world doing good work and who we get to follow through social media and see the way our values come into their lives. The Unitarian Universalist Association has a commission on appraisal, and it basically exists as an independent body separate from the board to look at future trends. It is not a well-known fact that our own Reverend Rodney Lemery serves on that commission. Yeah. Last year, amid a lot of chaos and a pandemic and a suddenly virtual General Assembly, they issued a report that has not gotten as much attention as I think it should, and I hope we'll do some studying of it here as well. But they said this in that report: covenant requires that we be present to and for each other, that we engage in community, and that we work together for the good of the entire community. The power of covenant keeps us in community together. It seeks to prevent us from walking away when that might be the easiest thing to do. It requires that we are accountable to ourselves and to each other. And so, that's the reason that we are the people that show up, because it's part of our faith tradition. We are not a hierarchical tradition that has someone who deems everything on high. We are a covenantal tradition that works things out among ourselves. I do want to say that this is a time when we need that commitment. And 2 Sundays from now, on April 3rd, we are really asking you to show up. If you're in a position to do so, that would be a great Sunday to be here personally, physically. And if you want to know why that's the case, and some of the trends and some of the things that we're facing, next Saturday at 1, we're having a special session we're calling Guardians of the Flame, to hear more about the trends and financial realities facing our community. That'll be next Saturday. I want to be real about this. And I want to say that whenever we speak about covenant and about how we are there for each other, there's somebody out there who doesn't quite feel like we were there when they needed us. And so I want to talk about a very special part of covenant that's especially true right now, during this time when we're still kind of half virtual, we're often masked, it's hard to know who's here and who's not here all the time. Somebody out there might need something, and here's what I'm going to say. Your part of showing up is to let somebody know that. Because as much as we try, sometimes we don't always know when someone has a need. That is truly a gift you give our community. This has been a hard year, and so it's really important for us to renew our commitment to not just our financial gifts, as we'll do in 2 weeks, but to truly renew our covenant to show up for one another, and that's what we do for each other every week. I want to say that it's not just the people in our midst right here. Rodney and I were playing around with some data, which is like one of the things that we seem to be doing for fun these days, which is not a good sign. And one of the things we noticed was that 277 people were virtual visitors in the last 2 years to us online. 277. I thought it was a mistake. I sent the data back to Rod, and he's like, no, Leslie, that's actually the real number. And it was. One is a couple from the Northwest, and they're coming down this way this week, and they called me, and they asked me if they could just stop by to see the campus they've been visiting for 2 years. I'm going to get to meet them and shake their hands, perhaps, as they pass through. And they actually left me one of those voicemails, and this is what they said. What has impressed us has been the follow-through, how you as a congregation take care of people and the various people involved in the various levels of service. And so I want to thank Kim and Lee. If you're driving today and listening, we hear your words. But our reach extends to those who we have also borne witness for as well. I called my reflection covenant and grace. The word grace can be a noun or a verb. As a noun, my favorite definition is this one: courteous goodwill. Isn't that a nice definition? Courteous goodwill. And yet my hours of scouring through the disorganized and repetitive photographs suggest that perhaps sometimes it's important that we look for other forms of grace, like an unacknowledged act that can happen, which I sometimes needed to find the photographs I was looking for, and sometimes I didn't. But as a verb, the word grace means this: to do honor or credit to someone or something by one's presence. And that's what we do every time we show up, on Sundays or throughout the week, or here or on the streets, at each other's doorstep when something is needed, whatever it is. Today is the spring equinox, when that which is around us begins to flourish and burgeon. May we come anew into this year, anew into our covenants, anew into our grace.